What's up, guys? Welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks, and man, do I have a broken one for you guys today. We have Yargle and Multani. The goal of this deck is simple. We're going to sacrifice Yargle and Multani to create a lot of value. We can create an instant board state. We can bring Yargle and Multani back once we sacrifice them to sacrifice them again. We can sacrifice them to draw a lot of cards. We can even abuse that insane amount of power to add a ton of mana to our mana pool. Additionally, with the Pathbreaker Ibex, we can just give our whole board plus 18/18 and take out our opponents with our massive board state. Honestly, if the heart of the cards are on our side, we can win the turn this guy comes down, which is pretty insane. Without further ado, let's get into the deck tech. This first category is just going to abuse the massive power this guy has. I'm personally a fan of just creating a massive board state out of nowhere with it, using Gulkal Gisa, right? We just sacrifice our commander and now we have 18 2/2 zombies. That seems pretty good. Tend the Pests does something really similar, right? Sacrifice our giant commander and get a giant board state, which is a pretty good trade up. Karazda Guildmage is also pretty similar, but additionally, we can give our commander +1/+1 and it gains Intimidate until end of turn. So not only can we use this as a backup plan to create a massive board state, we can use this guy to go ahead and give our commander some evasion and get someone with that commander damage. Dragon Throne of Tarkir. After we create a massive board state, we're going to want to buff that board state up because you're not going to take someone out with, well, you probably could take someone out with 18 2/2s, but it'd be a lot easier to take someone out with 18 20/20s, right? So that's where Dragon Throne of Tarkir and Pathbreaker Ibex come into play. Just for the people that are as bad as math as I am, 18 times 20 is 360 damage. Your opponents aren't surviving that. Moving on, let's draw a shit ton of cards with Greater Good, Momentous Fall. We can even use cards like Disciple of Bolas to draw a lot of cards and gain a lot of life. Finally, we can even use Shadow Heart and Life's Legacy. This is going to draw us 18 cards. This is why I think the deck is so powerful. What makes it powerful is what's in the 99, not the commander. Let's go ahead and add 18 mana to our mana pool while we're at it. Am I right? We can use Savala, Heart of the Wild to do this, and we can even draw cards because 18 should be the highest power whenever it enters the battlefield. Additionally, we can use Traverse the Outlands to get 18 lands. Now, we will have to make it back to our turn, but I don't think that's going to be an issue. Now, I can already see that some of you are probably concerned of how much we want to sacrifice our commander in this deck. Well, don't worry about that, because the next category is going to save him with cards like Supernatural Stamina and Feign Death. Notably, these cards are super cheap. We're talking 1 mana to save your commander. We also run Undying Malice, Fake Your Own Death, Return to Action, Abnormal Endurance, Demonic Gifts, Kaya's Ghost Form, Verdant Rebirth, and Malakir Rebirth. Something to pay attention to when we look at these cards is half of them are either going to give him a +1/+1 counter or +2/+0. Not only is this going to buff up and make the cards that sacrifice him to get value off of his power better, but it's also going to make it to where our opponents get into that commander damage range of 21 damage. Moving on, let's look at the supporting cards of the deck. We have Gerard Gagari Lichlord. This is going to make it to where we can sacrifice our massive commander to deal damage to all of our opponents. Notably, if we have Savala on the battlefield, we tap Savala to create 18 mana, and then we can go ahead and cast something like Feign Death on our commander, and then we can easily sacrifice him 2 times, doing a ton of damage to our opponents and probably winning the game on the spot. There's a lot of scenarios where we win the game out of nowhere just because of our commander's power, and I love it. Gulta Primal Hunger. It's just going to be really good in the deck to have another massive creature for 2 mana notably that we can use to value off of all of our other Power Matters cards, right? Eternal Witness brings something back from the graveyard. Veto Thorn of Duskrose. This is going to be really fun to commander damage one of our opponents out and then have another opponent die just because we deal 21 damage to their face. Notably, it won't die or they won't die from commander damage. I'm just saying, like, if they so happen to have 21 life, we can deal 21 damage to them. Rushed Rebirth is going to be super useful. We just go ahead and throw this on our commander, sacrifice him, and we'll get whatever we need. If we need a board state, we can go get Gulkal Gisa. If we need more mana, we can go get Savala, Heart of the Wilds. This gets whatever we need in any scenario, so it's going to be pretty easy to win the game if we have this card. Green Sun Zenith, again, tutoring up for that creature we need on the spot is going to be really useful. Concordant Crossroads. Nothing sucks more than creating 18 zombies and then, just passing the turn because your opponent's not going to try everything in their power to get rid of you. No, this is honestly going to make the deck work so much better because you do not want to pass the turn after creating a massive board state like this. Notably, even if we can't buff them with a Pathbreaker Ibex, just having 18 2/2s is gonna be enough to take out one of our opponents. Speaking of commander damage, that leads us into our next category. We've got an 18 power creature in the command zone, so let's take people out with commander damage. Goreclaw is gonna be amazing in the deck. Not only is it gonna lower the cost of our commander, but it's gonna give it +1 and trample whenever it attacks. Notably, remember all of those cards that bring our commander back to the battlefield, give it +2. This guy really only needs a little help to get to 21, so instead of, putting a lot of +3/+3 cards in there, I thought it'd be better just to build the deck in a different way and for him to get +3 power like almost incidentally, which is how it ended up turning out, and I'm kind of happy with it. Rancor, this is another card that's going to give him +2 and trample, which is really good. Luxodon Warhammer, this one does give +3, but it also gives trample and lifelink. Gaining 21 life after taking an opponent out is going to be what you need because they're going to be gunning for you after that. Rogue's Passage, just a solid land out of nowhere. You've got an unblockable 21/21, right? Well, not 21/21, but we don't talk about the toughness. He's very insecure about that. Ruxa, Patient Professor. Not only is this going to give us a way to bring our commander from the graveyard back to us, but it can also give him +1 and, have him assign his damage as though he weren't blocked, because that's not broken. Commander's Plate is going to be really good because not only is it going to give us protection from a lot of colors, it's going to give us that +3 and make him almost unblockable. Alright guys, let's talk about some card draw, and we've got some more Power Matters cards for you. We've got Soul's Majesty and Hunter's Insight. Notably just really good card draw spells in a Power Matters deck, right? Rishkar's Expertise is sneakily one of the best cards in the deck because of that letting you play a 5 or less CMC card from your hand without paying its mana cost. All we'll need is a Gulcaller Gisa, a Savala, slam down that Concordant Crossroads, and you're off to the races. Guruk's Uprising is also another solid include. Not only is it going to give our commander trample, but also whenever he enters the battlefield, we'll draw a card. And notably, he's going to be entering and leaving the battlefield a lot because we're sacrificing him kind of a lot. The poor guy. Return to the Wild Speaker, another card that's going to value off of his power, or we can go ahead and buff our massive board state to take our opponents out. Read the Bones, just really solid early card draw. Stinging Study, our commander does cost 6 mana, so drawing 6 cards sounds pretty awesome. Moving on to Ramp, and we went pretty aggressive with it and pretty early, right? Because our deck doesn't really do anything till we get our commander onto the battlefield, so we need to ramp fast out of the gate. So we include some Lianwar Elves, Fin-Torned Elves, and Elves of Deep Shadows. 1-drops that create mana are pretty good. Wayfarer's Bauble, another really cheap mana producer. We also do include Golgari Signet and Arcane Signet just because they cost 2 mana, right? I know it's a green deck, we have access to green ramp, but we want to be ramping on turn 2 every game no matter what, so we included them in the deck. We have Rampant Growth, Nature's Lure, and Farseek. Again, ramping on turn 2, extremely important because we want to get our commander out ASAP. Cultivate, just a staple. Kodama's Reach, also a staple. And then finally, we all know we have that Traverse the Outlands, which is going to just throw 18 lands into the battlefield. That sounds pretty insane. I mean, just think about how much that thins your deck even. You're going to be drawing gas for the rest of the game. Alright guys, let's look at that removal, and I'm gonna be honest, Golgari's coming up for the best removal in my opinion. We've got Tear Asunder. This can target any permanent if we pay that kicker cost. Nature's Claim, just really cheap, efficient removal. Beast Within, another permanent removal card. Maelstrom Pulse, not only can this host other token strategies, but it can also take out any permanent. Notably though, make sure they don't have a sack outlet, because they can sack the target in response and your spell will fizzle. Bane of Progress, this card puts in work, guys. There's a ton of artifact decks now. There's a ton of enchantment decks now. So this guy drops onto the field and he becomes massive. He's going to be another really good sack outlet for us. Toxic Deluge, I like this because our commander does have a pretty good toughness. Even though we don't like to talk about it, he does have a still pretty good one. So this can host token strategies. In Guruk's Wake, this is going to make it to where we can destroy everything except for our commander, which is going to be pretty cool to take someone out with commander damage. Dread Cacodemon. I have been waiting to throw this in a deck, and I think this is the perfect one. We're going to be ramping hard. We're already trying to cast massive creatures, so I think this guy fits here. Maybe he's a guilty include and kind of greedy, but I like him here. Assassin's Trophy, another permanent removal. Putrefy, this one is pretty flexible, can hit some different targets. And that's going to do it for the removal. That's also going to do it for the deck tech. As always, guys, I hope this helps you in your deck building endeavors. I'll see you in the next one.